Hello, everyone, and welcome to BEGRAT, Time Management Skills for Graduate Students. My name is Franklina Addae, a graduate student studying applied statistics and research methods. I'm currently working as an OER graduate assistant, and I'll be moderating today's discussion. I'll introduce our speaker for today. We are very, very fortunate to have Hailey Sands with us. Hailey is a fifth-year graduate student in the Counselor Education and Supervision program and has extensive experience balancing multiple roles, including assistantships, teaching, and private practice, all while pursuing her studies. Today, she will be telling us about valuable insights and practical strategies in managing time effectively as a graduate student. Hailey will talk to us about time management strategies, including prioritizing tasks, using time management tools, and establishing boundaries. So with that, I would like to hand over to Hailey. Thank you very much for taking time to speak to us, and we are very happy to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. So I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, nope, I can't share my screen.
All right, I think you can do that now.
Oh, sweet. Okay. There we go. So I am here to talk to you all about time management. As Franklina Addae said, I am a fifth-year CES doctoral student. I'm currently ABD, so I'm finishing up my dissertation. And I will give you a little bit more information about me because I think that's helpful. So, like I said, my name is Hailey. I use she, her pronouns. I am in my fifth year of the Counselor in Education and Supervision program. I've taken a full course load for 4 years, as now I'm in the APD phase, so it's a little bit different. I've been a University 101 instructor graduate assistant for all 5 years. So that included teaching 1 to 2 sections of University 101, as well as other requirements. And I've always carried an additional part-time job with that full course load, the assistantship. I was a dream team advisor. Currently, I'm a private practice clinician, so I see clients on the side. I'm also a commuter student. I was a commuter student for 4 years of program. Self-care is the leprechaun of grad school. When I was in my master's program, another master's student said this phrase, and it's stuck with me since then. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that with graduate school, often we're told to do self-care, we're told to take care of ourselves, and that's really challenging when we have such a busy schedule. So time management, the reason why we talk about time management is because we're trying to find ways to bring in that self-care and have time to do the things that we want to do while we're in grad school. Does it always work perfectly? Absolutely not. Sorry, I'm coughing. Scheduling and time management is never going to work perfectly. And so that's one thing that I wanted to get out of the way and talk about at the beginning, because often that's what I hear from students is that, we're really busy, we're trying to balance everything, and sometimes it feels like you're just having to pick one thing over another, and that feels really exhausting. So we have to acknowledge that self-care and time management is really difficult in graduate school. So here are some of the ways that I advise students to work on time management. A lot of these I got from the University 101 class that I teach for undergraduate students. And a lot of these have come from my own experiences, as well as talking to other people in my cohort and other grad students. So the first thing that you want to think about with time management is, how do I prioritize? I like to think about this in terms of, what do I value? Because as long as I'm following along with my values, as long as I'm going for things that are really meaningful to me, then I generally feel good about how I'm managing my time, regardless of what it looks like. So really thinking about, what do I value? Do I really value time with my family? Do I really value time with my partner? How much do I value school? How much do I value work? What are these things and how do I want to rank them? The next thing you want to think about are your deal breakers. What are those areas that you know have to be prioritized that aren't an option? And this, I think a lot about school. We have to acknowledge that we're here as graduate students because we're trying to finish a program. And that means that we have things that we have to complete and that have to get done, regardless of whether we want to finish them or whatever else is going on in our lives. Now, there are two specific methods for prioritizing that you can use. One is the Eisenhower method. And what that does is it looks at things in terms of urgency and importance. Importance is a value-based piece. So something could be urgent and important, meaning you want to get it done quickly. Something could be urgent but not important, which might change when you get it done. Something might be important but not urgent, and something might not be urgent or important, and you can order your tasks in that order. The next one is the ABCDE method. And this one goes through the most important things. So A is most important, ABC are most important, D is delegate, and E is eliminate. So how can I delegate? Are there tasks that I can delegate to someone else? Is there something that I can eliminate from my task list right now? So those are some different ways to prioritize. The next thing we have to talk about with prioritizing, especially in grad school, is also flexibility. As much as we would like to always be able to prioritize perfectly, there are times when we have to be flexible and we have to acknowledge that we have to figure out which of our priorities we can deal with in that moment. So my first piece of advice is to know specifically where you can adjust. So really thinking about, what in my schedule can be moved around, where can I find adjustments? For me, often that was knowing that my work was flexible and that I could move those work hours around as needed. It was also knowing that my partner was really understanding about my program. And so that meant that if I needed to ask for time to do things, we could be flexible in our time together. At the same time as knowing where you can adjust, also know your boundaries. So that means knowing, it's kind of like knowing your deal breakers, but it's really knowing where you need to put limits so that you can still show up and be what you need to be for everything that you're doing in your life. So knowing your boundaries and knowing how you recover if those boundaries get crossed, because sometimes they do. There was 1 week with University 101 where I was interviewing, I think, 30 different candidates for a few different things. And it meant that my work schedule was all over the place and I had to move a lot of things because University 101 for me is a deal breaker. It's something that's very important and meaningful to me, and has a lot of value. And so I had to know how to shift things around and then how to recover from that time that was really busy. So one example I share for this is the idea of a no things weekend. My partner and I will go through and we don't just plan out our weekends, we'll plan out weekends specifically for doing nothing. And that doesn't mean necessarily doing nothing. It mostly means we're not allowed to make plans during that time that involve leaving our city. So if people want to come see us or we want to do something in town, that's great, but we are not going to travel during that time. And that's been a big help. The last piece with flexibility is talking to your support system. I am very lucky in that my partner is also going through a graduate program, and so they're very understanding and really know what it's like. And that's not the case for everyone. And often what I hear is that partners and family really don't understand what goes into a graduate program and really don't understand the time commitment or the requirements or what you're being asked to do. And so really what's important is talking to your support system, letting them know what you need, letting them know how you might have to be flexible and what that looks like, and also talking to them about their values and their deal breakers. Making it a more collaborative event. Often, as graduate students, we have families, we have children. And so finding ways to really be collaborative with your support system about time management can really help you prioritize as well as know that you have support if things need to be flexible. Okay. So I wanted to talk about those things first and just acknowledging that we do our best to prioritize and sometimes we have to be flexible. So really planning and knowing and being intentional about how you're flexible will really help with your time management and help you recover from those weeks that are really tough. Okay, now into some more of the specifics. So the next part with time management, once you know your priorities, once you know where you can be flexible, once you've acknowledged what's important, the next piece is finding the tools that are going to work the best for you. What I talk to my students a lot about is the idea that it doesn't matter what your system is, as long as you have a system that's working for you and you're willing to reevaluate that system if it stops working. So that means exploring some different options. If you're a planner person, finding a planner that works the best for you. Using something like a master calendar in an ideal week. I'll actually go through those specifically in the next slides. I have some examples there. Using a calendar system, finding the calendar that you really like, learning how to sync all of your calendars. I don't know about you all, but I have Google Calendar for work, and then Outlook for school and other things. And I had to watch a couple YouTube videos about how to sync those calendars so that they could talk to each other. And so I knew what was going on. And it was a game changer. So really understanding what tools are being used for you. Making lists if that's what's helpful. One thing that we talk a lot about in University 101 is the idea of eating the frog first. And really what that means is it can be helpful to pick the thing that you are looking forward to the least on your list, and doing that first. Because once you get that done, you have more momentum. You've already taken care of this thing that you're really not excited about, and you can move through in that way. Another great option is breaking down larger tasks. This is something that can be particularly helpful if you're neurodivergent, and if you are struggling with trying to stay organized or trying to keep track of all of your assignments and things. Breaking them down into smaller tasks can help you stay a lot more on track with it and can help it be a lot less overwhelming. The last one is apps. If you're an app person, find some apps that feel really fun to you. Microsoft Tasks is one of my favorite ones because you can make lists for like different things. I would have a list for every class. You like get to mark things off and it syncs with all of your calendars. So if you have something on a calendar with a due date, it'll show up and everything talks to each other. I am the type of person as an instructor and as a student where if something is not on my calendar or it's not in an email, it doesn't exist. And I'm not going to remember it. So it has to be written down somewhere. And that helps me plan everything out. Calendly is one of my favorite things if you're somebody who works with other students or has to schedule a lot of meetings. Calendly is a really great website that actually works with your calendar. So you send people a link, they go to the link, they choose what time works best for their calendar, for them. It shows up on their calendar and your calendar. It also checks your calendar. So if there are other things already scheduled there, it won't schedule it, which means a lot less of emailing back and forth, trying to find a time that works for everybody, because that's a huge pain. There are also ways to do that within Microsoft Outlook. This is just the one that worked the best for me. Mostly because it could then talk to my Google Calendar and Outlook together, so that it looks at my work calendar and my school calendar to keep everything in track. Because that's a huge pain, finding things that have been like double booked and having to arrange your schedule. And there's a ton more. These are the things that I have found work the best for me. And I would encourage you to really be open to exploring different tools and open to exploring what might work well for you. Another thing that I have that I've tried a lot, putting everything on my desk, are things like doodle planners, where you can keep track of meetings and things like that in a way that works the best for your brain. So finding the tools that work the best for you. Okay. So to go into things specifically, so these are two tools that I teach University 101 students to create. And to be completely honest, when I first started teaching this program at my first year of graduate school, I was really angry that nobody had taught me how to do this before. And I started using it in all of my semesters, and it's been incredibly helpful. So the first thing is a master calendar. Now, a master calendar is one page where you list every week of your semester. And you go through and you write down everything that is going to be due or happening that week. So you can see in my calendar, and this is from a couple semesters ago, but I have week 1, I have what the week is, the days of the week, and then I have everything that was due or what my classes were. I had some classes that were weekend classes, so they weren't my whole semester, so I wrote down when they were happening. I also had personal things that were going on or work things, so I knew what was going on. This is how you can keep all of your syllabi, so all the information for your classes in one place. It's meant to be an easy to glance at sheet, so it is meant to just be one page. You can use this however works the best for you. I am very much a color coding person because colors are fun, to be honest, and it helps me distinguish what's there. So everything is color coded. I cross off things as they go through. You're meant to list everything in here. There is also a template that's available through University 101 that gets updated every semester. So if it's something you're interested in checking out, that template has been created and is something you can use. I liked using Microsoft OneNote for this, but you can use whatever system works the best for you. I've seen people use Google Sheets so that they can access it in different places. I've seen people use Excel. I've seen Word documents. I've seen paper and pencil, whatever works the best for you. This is then used in conjunction with your ideal week. So the ideal week, again, is one page, and it lists your week in basically a 24-hour schedule. So you can see this isn't quite 24 hours. Mine starts at 7 a.m. and ends at midnight. But in your ideal week, you're going to mark off everything that you do weekly. So this is where you would put a work schedule. This is where you would put your classes that you're taking. This is where you put any regular meetings that you have. And anything that goes on. When I was commuting, this is where I would also list my commute times. So I knew how long I was spending in the car, and I knew what times I had outside of that. Then what this is meant to give you is information about how you can then fill the extra times that you have with whatever you need to do. So you're meant to use them together. You're meant to look at your master calendar in the week that you have, the things that you have due, and then go to your ideal week and see how you can plan out when you want to complete the things you want to complete. Now, this can look however you want it to look. I have some students who will mark out specific times when they are going to do specific tasks. I don't always function well that way. So what I would do is I would mark in flex time or study time and just make it a general time that I was going to work on schoolwork or things like that. This also helped me know how I could shift things if I needed to be flexible with my work schedule, so that I knew what was going on. The ideal week is meant to change pretty much every week. A lot of my students would struggle because they would see this as how they're supposed to have their week look every single week and it be the same. And that's not really the case. You're meant to use it together with the master calendar to know what you need to get done and then know what time you have available to get it done. So this can change. I've seen a lot of students do this in Google Sheets. I, again, liked Microsoft OneNote was my favorite place to do it, but you can really use whatever is working for you. But I will say I started using both of these every semester in graduate school as a PhD student, and it really, really changed how I was able to conceptualize what was going on for me and understand what I needed each week. Okay, so that's master calendar and ideal week. And yeah, these are my examples. You can see this is work. Again, everything was color coded because that's what helped me. Staff meetings that I knew were happening, the class that I was teaching. Like I said, when I commuted, I put in when I commuted. I liked marking off when I wanted to try and be asleep by because that helped me know how much time I had in the evenings. Did I always go to sleep by 10 p.m.? No, but it helped me plan those things out better. Okay. So these are some of my favorite resources that I just wanted to share for some different time management processes. So for planners, my favorite has been Plum Paper Planner. It's fully customizable. You can choose a ton of different layouts. You can choose when it starts. You can choose Adding lists, I always added to-do lists to mine because that was what helped me the most. My current planner is the Girls Gotta Change planner, which I really like because it's undated and it allows me to have things planned out hourly, a to-do list, and then just kind of a general plan. I think that's also a good example of the fact that my needs as a graduate student have changed each semester, and that means that I've had to reevaluate what's going to work for me, and that's okay. It's okay to recognize if a tool isn't working for you the same way anymore and do something different. Calendars is another one, right? Outlook, Google Calendar, find what works the best for you, find which one you are the most comfortable with. They all sync together. So you, regardless of which calendars your work or school uses, you can have everything sync together. My partner and I have found that what really helps us is a giant 12-month wall calendar that we have on our dining room wall. And honestly, again, that was another game changer for us because it helped us plan things out and know what was going on. It helped us also plan things out looking forward so that things didn't creep up on us. It looks really silly in our dining room and it's been super helpful. So find the things that work well for you. Scheduling, there are lots of different scheduling apps, scheduling software, all those things. Again, my favorite has been Calendly. I've been using it for 3 or 4 years at this point, and I really like it. Lists, some different time blocking methods. Time blocking is a really great technique, especially if you're neurodivergent. YouTube has a ton of really great timers that you can use that will show up while you're doing work so that it helps you know how much time you're using and can help alleviate some anxiety about time. The Pomodoro method specifically is one that you can look up on YouTube. There are a ton of Pomodoro method timers. What the Pomodoro method is it's 25 or 15 to 25 minutes of work and then like a 5 to 10 minute break, and then 15 to 20 minutes of work, 5 to 10 minute break, that kind of thing going through. And there are actually timers on YouTube that will walk you through that process so that you don't have to keep track of it. And they're usually fun. They've got like fun videos, music, all that stuff. There are also things for body doubling if you're neurodivergent. Body doubling is just having somebody else there with you while you're doing work, who is also working on something. Body doubling can happen in a lot of different ways. And one of those ways is there are YouTube videos of people doing work so that you can have somebody doing work with you while you're trying to get things done. And then just some miscellaneous organizational things. Microsoft OneNote is my favorite thing for organizing notes. It keeps everything in one place. I have used it since undergrad and just always really liked it. You can move things around, organize things. And then EndNote is something for graduate students that can be really helpful. It organizes all of your resources together. So when you're working on research, you can keep all of your articles in one place and it can actually pull the citations into your Word documents as you go through, which can be really wonderful. Save a lot of time and keep everything really organized. So I know that those aren't necessarily time management things, but they have been really helpful in terms of organizing. So those are a lot of my favorite resources. I would encourage you all to try some out. I would encourage you all to share resources with each other. I found these resources through other people. They were shared with me by different people in my program, different people in other programs, by my father, who also went through a grad program. Don't be afraid to try different resources and see what works the best for you. And don't be afraid to try it and not like it and then not do it again. It's always okay to have that. And speaking of that, be prepared to adjust. So time management in graduate school is all about being able to adjust and being able to find a system that works for you and reevaluate it as things change. I like to say, take a science fair approach to time management, which means have a hypothesis about something going to work, try it out, collect some data, see how it does, draw your results, and then see if things need to change from that information. As graduate students, our lives are going to look so different every semester. My life right now, being all but dissertation, looks completely different from how my very first semester looked. And it's meant I've really had to evaluate and change how I manage my time because so much of it is self-directed, and that's really challenging. So again, that's made me look at things differently, and it's okay to reevaluate and change up how you do things. Check in with your values regularly. Sometimes our values change. Sometimes we're in a relationship and then we're not in a relationship. Sometimes different things might show up at different semesters that you value more. Check in with your support system regularly. Let them know where you're at. Let them know what's going on for you, what might be coming up. It can be really helpful to have ways to share your calendar with them. That is one really nice thing about the master calendar or about like my giant wall calendar, is that my partner knows what's going on. And that way I don't have to spend as much time and energy detailing to them everything about my schedule. They know what's happening and they know what's going on. They know when I'm going to be really busy. And that helps us stay on the same page and be able to support each other. And again, I've said this so many times, but reassess each semester and more if necessary. I have a couple empty planners because what started out, what I thought would work out during my semester ended up not working out. And I had to change it, and that's okay. Better to find a system that was going to work for me than continue to work on a system that was not helpful. And yeah, don't be afraid to experiment. I struggled with using a planner and with planning out my time all through undergrad. The only reason it started working for me is because I found out that I could use fun colors. I keep looking over here because I have my giant pack of like highlighters, because that's what's helped me stick with my planner. So don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to find the things that feel silly, but help you actually stay on top of things. You never know what's going to work for you. So, yeah. All right. And that is my whole presentation. This is the time of the presentation where I like just to encourage people to share suggestions or things that have worked for them. I'm always learning about new resources from everybody when I do this type of presentation. And I think it's helpful to share what we know.
Thank you very much, Hailey. That was fantastic. I appreciate your focus on both practical tools like time blocking and using digital planners, and also the reminder that practice self-care, the reminder to practice self-care. It's clear on how intentional planning and small adjustments can make the huge difference, you know. We really appreciate this. I'd like to ask some few questions, then we can end this session.
I think that's really common. The suggestions I usually offer are to be okay with changing a planned schedule if that's what's needed. And that it's okay to not have everything completely planned out. That's one reason why for my ideal week, I really struggled with having everything planned out to a T for the whole week. So what helped me was just knowing when I had time available and what I wanted to do with that time so that with whatever energy I had that day, I could use that time for whatever I needed. And sometimes I needed it for self-care. Sometimes I had the energy to do schoolwork. But what helped was knowing that it was there. And yeah, sometimes just being comfortable with changing things up in the middle of the week and recognizing that maybe I scheduled something that wasn't going to work, and that's okay. Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. So, say a big thank you to Hailey for sharing these valuable insights with us during this session. And I'd like to share something too that I also learned from this session so that everybody can also learn from it. So I remember I said that time management, I would say that time management is not a one size fits. Okay. And we use these strategies as foundations. The strategies that you have taught us will be a foundation for us. But we don't have to hesitate to make changes to make them fit or to adapt to new changes in what works best for us. So with all this being said, would like to conclude on our session for today. And also, please remember that you can find or access this session on the Bear Grads website anytime you need a refresher. Thank you very much for taking time to watch this video, and also a best of luck for implementing these strategies. Thank you very much.